your OB-GYN, who is excellent at pregnancy, preventing it, and then getting you through delivery. That's what they're trained for in medical school. What they're not trained in is that next phase, which is quite a bit longer because we're living longer. So if they are not trained, it's a really simple step. You go to their bio on their website first, or you talk to them and ask them, are you a menopause specialist? Every woman 40 plus should seek a menopause specialist. They have extra training and they are keenly interested in helping you not only through the transition, but through the rest of your life.
Welcome to Spark Me, a podcast for women who know life is just getting interesting.
Each week, we spark great conversations, share lived experiences, real resources, and tap into the collective wisdom that comes from learning together.
If you're looking for connection, not perfection, fresh ideas, and a community where you truly belong,
then pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Welcome to Spark Me.
Hey, Liz, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome. And I'm super excited for today's interview and our conversation and topic because it's going to hit some things that I care a lot about right now. I think we all do.
I think so. Well, today we're talking about something that really does come up a lot in our conversations with other women, but it still feels surprisingly under-discussed and misunderstood, and that's menopause.
Yep.
Not just the symptoms, but, there's confusion and stress and sleep disruption and that feeling that your body is changing. And frankly, nobody told us about this part of our life. And so we want to change that. And today we are going to be talking with Adrien Cotton. Adrien is a wellness educator, a speaker, and the creator of Master Menopause Now, a program designed to help women better understand what's happening in their bodies and how to navigate menopause with practical tools, not overwhelm. She's also the creator of the Wellness Wheel, a framework that looks at how stress, sleep, nutrition, movement, mindset, and daily habits all work together, especially during this period of hormonal change. What we appreciate about Adrien's work is that it's not about fixing yourself or doing everything perfectly. It's about understanding what your body needs right now and making small, informed shifts that actually fit into real life. So we're super excited. We wanted to have this conversation because menopause doesn't just happen in isolation. It happens while we are working, caregiving, parenting, leading, and frankly, doing all the things. And many women are trying to navigate this quietly. And we feel like, hey, let's bring it out into the open, have the conversation, and provide good information and support. So today we're going to talk with Adrien, and we just want to welcome you. Thank you, Adrien, for joining us.
Oh, you bet. I'm thrilled to be here. I love this topic.
Well, you are the expert, and we are so excited to just dive right in. So, with that in mind, what is the most common question that women are coming to you with right now about menopause?
So, Liz, I think it's important for me to first define menopause because some in our audience may not know. So let's first go with perimenopause. Perimenopause means before. Peri means before menopause. For women, it can last anywhere from 1 year to 10 years. The average age of onset is 47. However, it is not uncommon for a woman in her early 40s to experience perimenopausal symptoms, which I can go into later. And then menopause means that your menses has paused forever. So your cycle has not, you've consistently gone through 12 consecutive months without a cycle. So that is, I just wanted to make sure we define our terms before we go into them. I get asked a lot of questions about this, and it's really great. Isn't it great we're having this conversation today?
Yes.
Because in my mom's life, we never talked about this. It was called change.
The change.
And it was called the change. And so we're now in an era and a time where people are more openly talking about it.
Yeah.
Is it still something that we need to talk about more? Yes. So I get asked questions mostly about a woman's body. That's what I do, and that's likely why I'm asked a lot of questions about what is happening.
Yeah.
I'm edgy. I can't sleep. I feel like I'm gaining weight. And the other challenge about weight gain is that you don't feel as if you can lose it like you did when you were in your 20s and 30s. And that's really a
Mhm.
big piece of what I do. So I would say, and there are libido changes. So I would say that the biggest question has to do with what can I do to feel better in my body? And let's face it, women want to look better too. So how do
Yeah.
I do this in this new phase of my life when they've had a chance to understand things are different? Your body's incredibly different than it was in your 20s and 30s.
What are those first warning signs? Like, what are not warning signs? What are the first signs? Because now that we're talking about it more, I'm looking back and going like, whoa, in my mid 40s, I was waking up with night sweats,
Yes.
like, and like weird things were happening in
Yes.
my body that I completely just attributed to stress and didn't even think it could be something called perimenopause. Like, I didn't even know what that word
Right.
was.
Right.
So, what are some of the first things that women should be looking for during perimenopause and
Yes.
then during menopause?
Absolutely, Michelle. You were likely greeted by your doctor because was very common. It's less common now, where it's just stress. You're living a very stressful life. You're likely taking care of children. You may even be taking care of elderly parents, or you're taking care of teams at work, nieces, nephews, neighbors. So now we're in a place where we can actually say, okay, what's going on? So in perimenopause, if a woman is really in tune with her body, now that's asking a lot for a 40-year-old. You're likely heading to the height of your career. Some women choose to have children, so they're doing both. They're taking care of a lot of people. The last thing they're paying attention to is their cycle. But I would tell you, women in your 30s, know your cycle, know it, track it, because you will see changes in your cycle. It will become longer, it will become lighter, it will become heavier. And yes, and yes, and yes. So the first sign is if you are tracking your cycle, you will see there's a change. But the biggest one for you women out there who are in the thick of it and saying, I have no clue, like I didn't, I had no clue about my cycle, is your stress. You just find that things trigger you more and you
Mhm.
can't seem to get through it. And that is your brain, that 3-pound organ between our ears that is responsible for all of this, saying something is different. I don't like it. That's not why you're here. You're here to reproduce, and something is going on that I don't like. So your brain is stressed. So then that compounds into a lot of other symptoms, like I call it the layer cake of stress. So if your brain's stressed and you have stress, and then stress happens, it just keeps layering up. And so what do? We go back to our old tricks of dieting, cardio, and shoving away all of those feelings because we're hoping that someday the fairy princess of taking away all the worries will go and take them all away. But they don't go away.
No.
So the first sign is really anxiety. And then you'll not start to notice, there are 4 common
Thank
signs
you
of
for that.
sleep. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Sleep deprivation they're the core 4 symptoms: sleep deprivation, vaginal dryness, stress, and weight gain.
Wow.
It's so interesting. And I feel like anxiety is one of those under talked about symptoms.
Mhm.
Because I know that when started going through this process, I had never experienced anxiety in my life. I'm just not that person, right? I'm like a super calm person. Things sort of roll with me. And I experienced anxiety and it happened to coincide with COVID. So then I was just relating it to COVID. But I
Right.
came out of it after doing research and realizing, no, it was my hormonal changes in my body. And I feel
Right.
like women aren't talking about that.
They're not, because partly we're aging. Women don't want to talk about that. That means that it's possible that we have less time left on this earth than we have lived.
Mm.
So let me go back into when, after you're finished with perimenopause, because Michelle asked about perimenopause, which is really important for women and men to understand. because once we can identify that I'm in perimenopause, I'm better prepared to understand that I need different tools for menopause and the rest of my life. And we die in menopause. So what I hear from women often, I'm finished with menopause. Oh, no, you're not, because you're still here.
Mm-hmm.
You're still in menopause. You still have your menses is paused. So as we transition from perimenopause to menopause, you can go 3, 4, 5, 6 years and have a missed period here and there and think, rock on, I'm done. And then you get it again. Countless women, many women, it doesn't go linear. This is not a linear path. You don't stop having your periods and then you go for 12 minutes in your months and you're finished. It typically happens, you go about 90 days first, and then here she comes again. And then she extends a little bit longer, and then here she comes again. So that's a many year process that we cannot ignore. And
Yeah.
it's time to really tune into your health, your wellness, your mindfulness, and all the things,
Yeah.
because you do have less time left than
If
you
you
had
want
before.
to, if you want to tune into it, one thing that comes up in the conversations I've been having is engaging with your doctor about it,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And
Oh, yes.
and it's something like when we go to our doctors, they're not all really well trained in menopause,
They are not.
and some of them are very anti HRT, and
They
some of
are.
them these days it's really even hard to have any conversation with your doctor because they have time limits, they're trying to get in and out.
Yes.
How do you overcome that? Because that's I think a real barrier to women, exploring this topic more or really getting the help they need in it.
Women tend to stick to the OB-GYN they have had since they were in their 20s. So often your OB-GYN, who is excellent at pregnancy, preventing it, and then getting you through delivery, that's what they're trained for in medical school. What they're not trained in is that next phase, which is quite a bit longer because we're living longer. So if they are not trained, it's a really simple step. You go to their bio on their website first, or you talk to them and ask them, are you a menopause specialist? Every woman 40 plus should seek a menopause specialist. They have extra training and they are keenly interested in helping you not only through the transition, but through the rest of your life. And they understand that all the systems of the body are impacted by menopause. It's not just a reproductive transition. Your heart changes, our skin changes, our brain changes. So amazing. We get more synapses in our brain post perimenopause than we did before. We have a better recollection of our memories in menopause than we did before. There's so many great changes that are happening in our bodies, but we're focused solely on the fact that we don't have a cycle anymore. So you
That's
go and find out, is he or she a menopause specialist?
that's
If
a
they
light
are
bulb.
not,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, and I don't want to make this sound like a small issue, but it's kind of like when you change hairdressers. It's
Yeah.
really hard to do.
It's really
Yeah.
hard to do. They have all of your medical history, right?
They
You
all
feel
your
you have a
yeah, I know.
relationship with them on some level. It's
Yeah, you
hard.
do.
It's hard to change. You've got to go through the whole
It's just
who
hard.
takes my insurance,
Insurance,
but
and it's
that's
worth it.
like a light bulb to say what you just said there, Adrian.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
what just
you
hit
have
me,
to.
like boom, is the OBGYNs are generally trained for childbearing and
They are.
childbirth,
They are.
but not really for this over
Not
40 and we're living
necessarily.
longer. Yeah.
Not necessarily.
And
And no, you
but
go ahead.
some are and some are interested in that phase is what you're saying. There are
Yes.
people out there, there are doctors out there who really this is the phase that they specialize in.
Yes. And generally, they will have retired from delivering babies, and they will have shifted to working with our age group.
And so, do you recommend that women, just as proactively as they're looking for maybe a new doctor, should they start to track their hormone levels Um,
So this is the beauty of a menopause specialist, is they call it
mhm.
brain, not blood. So they will come in and ask you, how do you feel? How are you sleeping? How's your sex life? How's your stress? How's your sleep? Are you exercising? Are you strength training? That's what you're going to hear from a menopause specialist. They will likely check your hormones it all depends on how old you are. If you're in your late 50s and you're experiencing one or two or three or four of these symptoms or 20 of them, they don't really need to check your levels.
Right.
They
They know.
know that your levels are off.
Right.
I was in my mid 40s. I needed to check, and it was astounding what we learned. I had experienced very early perimenopause and postpartum depression at the same time. Beat that
Wow.
after twin pregnancy and delivery. So you just never know and every woman is an individual. So we don't fit into a box. What we do is we tell them our story, and then they approach you based on who you are. And maybe you check your hormone levels. Some of them won't. And I have several menopause specialists to whom I refer my members, and they will sometimes say, well, she didn't check my hormones. And I said, why do you need to? We're so used to that, right?
I've never had my hormones checked. I'm not even sure what we're talking about there. Right? Like
Yeah. So they're
it's never
checking your
come up. I've never
estradiol.
thought of it. I feel
Yeah.
like,
They're
yeah.
really checking your estrogen,
Okay.
Yeah.
and they're
And
checking
your
probably even,
testosterone, your estrogen,
even
and
testosterone, your estrogen, your progesterone will come along with your estrogen. And honestly, a really good one will check your cortisol.
Hmm.
Because your cortisol is your stress hormone, and that's done in a different way. It's done with a saliva test. But honestly, your estrogen is what's going to really drive the conversation around menopause hormone therapy. It's no longer called HRT. We're calling it MHT, menopause hormone therapy. And we're not calling it replacement because we are not replacing our hormones.
Oh, interesting.
right.
So
So,
go
Adrian, you just mentioned that you went through perimenopause early. You had
I did.
postpartum, de- depression.
Mhm.
Is that what drew you to this work with menopause and
Absolutely. Yeah,
wellness?
absolutely. Yes, I had quite a confluence of symptoms. And I had that unbridled stress. I wasn't sleeping at the time. My son had terrible night terrors. He was running around the house. And my husband traveled extensively. I had my own small business and I had all of the symptoms, but I didn't know until someone recommended a menopause specialist in the area. And I say she saved my life because the first thing she told me I needed to do was laugh more and take Epsom salt baths. And I was asking her the same thing. Let's take my blood. She said, I don't even need to take your blood. But she did. And we found out I was in the throes. I was in phase 3 of perimenopause. Three phases, 3 stages. And so I was 45. So I'd obviously started in my early 40s, in my mid 40s, and then I did opt for menopause hormone therapy, and I have never looked back. I
and
was able to.
how did that bring you into what you're doing today with wellness? And then how
Yeah.
did you create Master Menopause Now? And what is that?
So at the time, I owned a strength training gym. My background is actually in politics and public policy in Washington, D.C. And like everybody does, after you get that big corporate job and you realize maybe this isn't for me, I had a big job, big paycheck, big house, fancy car. I realized this was not for me. So I left my job in corporate America and I started a strength training gym. I did that because not only was I not tending to my health and wellness and my strength, I noticed a lot of people around me weren't. So I started a gym.
What
And at my
age?
gym, I was, let's see, I was in mid 30, 35. So I started the gym and I recognized that I was going through something strange. And I was dieting. I was eating salads, dressing on the side. I was running so much, hurting my knees, hurting my hips, not losing a pound. And then I recognized I wasn't alone. I look around my gym and I noticed that a lot of the women my age in their 40s, early 50s were experiencing the same challenges. They were sweating a bucket of sweat on the gym floor. They were eating salads. They were fasting, eating protein bars, and so what happened was I realized I think I'm onto something. So that's when I developed my wellness wheel, which really starts with sleep. And then you move into stress resilience and physical movement. And I'm very passionate about women getting strong by lifting heavy weight. There's a ton of science and research behind it. And then the last one is really your nutrition, fueling yourself properly for the workouts. And then I should say the last one is calendars. How do you wrap this whole thing around? How do you calendarize my life now? Because my life is different now. My body's different now. The way I approach my body now and my life should be very different than when I was in my 20s and 30s. So I had my gym. I started Alexandria Wellness. I worked exclusively with women. And right away, I developed Master Menopause Now, which is an online program. And I have 63 videos on Master Menopause Now, but I do sell them in bite-sized chunks. So you can buy just stress, you can buy just movement, you can buy just sleep, and so on. And so I realized that some women are not able to either come to see me physically, or they have such busy lives because we tend to be busy. They couldn't work with me online because I work online with folks all around the country. Perhaps they could buy my program, and women are very happy with my online program, Master Menopause Now. So that's how I came to both of the practices, and I'm still doing both.
And do you walk women through the stages of menopause and
Absolutely.
perimenopause? Is that what that is? Like
I
just
walk
the
women through perimenopause and menopause, and then I walk through each one of the spokes of my wheel: sleep, stress, movement, nutrition, and calendar, and why each one of them corresponds to your experience with menopause and perimenopause. Each one has the science behind it. Each one has strategies you can incorporate right away.
And what do you feel is most misunderstood with women? Is it during those phases? Because you're saying like weight loss and there's all these stress and we're in talking to another guest, we realize hormones play a big part in sex too, right? And I
Big
think
time.
women think, oh, I'm just losing desire, and I
Yeah.
know all this happens with men too, right? But for women, I think it's specifically related in a lot of times to the hormones. Do you find women coming in like not understanding these things are all interrelated?
Women are not understanding most of these things. Yes, they're not understanding. It's uncomfortable to talk about it. They are so busy. I work mainly with executive women, and they are too busy to focus on their health. So they think that if they get a really hard workout in and they deprive themselves of calories, they still do. They are still living this myth that if you get in a bunch of cardio and you deprive yourself of calories, that somehow miraculously your body's going to be back in that bikini body that you had when you were in your 20s. We're not. That's not how you may, but you're not going to get it with those same practices. Because remember, our body, evolutionarily, this is the most unpopular statement I make every time I speak. Evolutionarily, we are here to reproduce. When our body, our brain senses we are no longer able to reproduce, Mother Nature does not know what to do with us.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it, but it makes
It's
perfect
true.
sense, right?
I'm curious with your work how you feel about the GLP-1 drugs in relation to menopause and because honestly, so many people are using them now.
Oh, yeah. I have made a big 360, 180, sorry, 180. The GLP-1s are helping so many people feel better in their bodies. I believe that if you have the right practitioner helping you and can hold your hand on along the way, I think it's an excellent tool and an excellent resource. I know women are really deliberating whether or not to try them, because that's what we do. Do we overthink or what?
Of
Are we
course.
overthinkers? I'm an overthinker.
Mhm.
So I know by the time a woman starts to discuss it with her doctor, she has probably been thinking about it for, I don't know, you take a guess, 6 months, a year? She's seen
Right.
other people who have had great success with it. Yes, I have completely come along. I have 180. And I think if it gives you this gift of feeling good in your body, heck yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of long-term concerns at the moment
Not yet.
around it. I
No,
think that would
no.
be, as a woman, that would be or as a human being, that would be one of my
Right.
concerns is like, well, what's the long-term issue going on here? But that's really interesting that you came around to like,
I
no,
did.
if this
I
is
did.
making you feel good, go for it.
We are all made differently. Some people, they just can't
Mhm,
lose the weight.
mhm.
But a lot of it has to do with our hormones and our genetics. And these meds have been around for a long time helping diabetes patients.
So
So
the
I think it's great.
research is there.
The
Yeah.
research is there. I mean, we're going to continue to learn more and more because more and more individuals are using them as tools.
Mhm.
I think it's fantastic.
I keep hearing that's such an interesting point of view. Thanks for the honesty on that. And I keep hearing, but that doesn't mean don't work out, right? It's probably more
Oh
important to work out
no.
when you're using those things and the strength training, right? Because we've heard of,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
Ozempic phase and like losing muscle instead of fat.
Yes.
And so maybe working out is still a key component no matter what.
No matter what, women need to understand that we are losing muscle. By the age of 30, we start losing muscle. Every single day, our muscles are atrophying and our bones are becoming less dense because primally we did not live past 30, 35. So we are extending our lives threefold. So our muscles, if we are not challenging our muscles, I say daily, and we are not fueling those muscles with ample protein, then we are losing muscle. We're losing the ability to balance. And muscle is the engine of our longevity. The more muscle we have, we know the more muscle we have, the less likely you'll experience Alzheimer's. We know the more muscle you have, the longer you will live. We know the more muscle you have, the more your immune system will work for you. I can just keep going. Muscle is the engine of every health indicator out there. We have to generate muscle and bone density. We do not want osteoporosis. And that is something that estrogen therapy does help.
Adrian, when you're saying muscle, right? Because this is something, again, I'll say, what I've sort of learned over time versus what I'm hearing now. It used to be like for women, lighter weights, more reps is the better
Yes,
way to go to keep so
yes,
that you don't look bulky and you don't look like a weightlifter. I'm hearing the exact opposite now. Can
you
you
are hearing that.
confirm which way is the right way to go?
Yes, you're hearing the very opposite from me. That is fine when you're 20 and 30. Go for those little dumbbells and go to 20 to 30 reps of that because your body can take that. Your body, when we're post menopause, particularly perimenopause and beyond, to generate muscle, it takes something very different, and that's heavier lifts. That's challenging your muscles and your brain in a different way that it needs to grow the muscle. Any more than about 5 or 6 repetitions over the course of time is too many because we
Really?
call them trash reps in the strength community. They're called trash reps. You know, the 3 sets of 10, you all have heard 3 sets of 10. There's no science behind 3 sets of 10.
What do
Right.
you, in addition to strength training, what about sleep? I feel like
Oh, yeah.
everybody is sleep deprived and, the screens are really impacting our ability to get a decent night's sleep. So, what is your approach with regard to sleep quality?
Sleep quality is far more important than sleep quantity. We know this. There's a lot of beautiful research, not only around menopause, but there's unbelievable research about sleep. Sleep quality is so important because you know that our brain is busier when we're asleep than when we're awake. It is repairing the muscles. Do you know that we take for granted that we consolidate memory overnight? So we wake up tomorrow morning and you all are going to be thinking, oh my gosh, wasn't it a joy to have Adrien on my program? We had Adrien on our program. Wasn't that fun, Liz? We
Of
sort of
course.
take that for granted, don't we?
Yeah.
So our brain
Yeah.
is consolidating memory at night. So you know the next day when you think, oh gosh, what's her name? What's the name of that girl I saw at that thing? That's because we're not sleeping.
Interesting.
So our brain is so busy. It's building our muscle through the growth hormone. And also the other really important thing about sleep is that we need to get about 5 to 6 cycles of sleep. There are 4 stages of sleep. That's called a cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we start with stage 1, and that's where we just fall asleep. That's like when you're in a boring speech, not mine, of course. So when you're in a boring speech and you know you're not off. We do that every night. So that's our brain saying it's time to go in. I'm going inward. 2, 3, 4, they extend anywhere between 30 and 90 minutes each. They're very unique functions that our brain is performing during each of those stages. So we need to go around that cycle 4 to 6 times in order for our brain to be fully present and prepared for the next day. That generally takes most people between 7 and 7.5 hours.
Okay.
So if I know during my REM sleep, my stage 4, I am dreaming, and there are certain things, that is my emotional regulation phase. So if I know that in stage 4, I may be awakening a few times per night, which is very common in perimenopause and menopause, then I'm losing out on my emotional regulation. They call it the antidepressant of sleep. If I'm not getting ample stage 4, no wonder I'm stressed out and I'm snapping with something somebody said, or I take something too personally because I didn't get my emotional regulation that night. So in terms of quality, to answer your question, it's a long answer. I could talk about sleep forever. It is so underestimated, particularly by women, because we all grew up in this phase when our parents were all about productivity. And so we want to make ourselves so productive. So after the kids go to sleep or after you're finished with work, then you're working. You get up early, you work. We need to get our sleep so that our perimenopause and menopause symptoms will be much calmer. So we will not experience Alzheimer's. We know there is a direct link between Alzheimer's and lack of sleep. There's a protein that builds up in our brain every day. We're building it right now, ladies. And at night, it detoxes. When we don't detox that particular protein, it builds up, and that protein causes Alzheimer's.
This sleep conversation is like so mesmerizing to me because
It's incredible.
It's like, I believe in how important it is, and yet it's so hard for me to
It
do
is.
everything you just said because I very naturally am a night owl. And if something wakes me up in the middle of the night because of our lives and the way our lives are lived, I usually, the wheel starts spinning to 10,000 things going through my head.
Yeah.
I'm stressed out in a second.
Mhm.
Everything seems like it's the most important thing in the world at 3 in the morning or 4 in
Of
the
course.
morning, right? It's just
Yeah.
like little problems become amplified tenfold. And all of a sudden I can't get back to sleep, right? And so are there any tricks to that, to like maybe before going to sleep
Yeah.
or if you wake up, kind of making it through the night with a good 7 hours?
Yes, absolutely. When you wake up in the middle of the night, there are a few things I can tell you. Number 1, don't nap. If you repeatedly do it, if you have a chronic issue waking up in the middle of the night, then that's probably you're not. But if you do every once in a while, napping is fantastic. Napping, we want to nap anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes. Once we get beyond 40 minutes, then our brain's confused because we also build up this other chemical in our brain that needs to build up in order for us to go to sleep. If we nap, the buildup of that chemical doesn't happen. Adenosine is what it's called. So adenosine builds up in our brain. And what happens is if we don't build it up, then we can't sleep. So first of all, don't nap unless it's just an occasional thing. Second thing, absolutely. All the experts will say if you're sitting there and you're breathing and you're trying to get all of your mindfulness, your meditation, maybe throw on a calm app, if that's still not working after somewhere between, if you can just estimate 15, 20 minutes, move. Go to another place in the house that you have already determined you will be. Make sure it is ready for you. So it's a cozy spot, maybe a lazy boy, a chair that's a nicely dimly lit room, and go in that room and hang out on that lazy boy. Maybe even take out a book with something pleasant, no murder mysteries, until you fall back to sleep and then get your way back to your room. That's what the experts say to do. Move. Because we don't want our brain associating your spot on the bed with the place that you wake up. We want that spot in the bed. We all have our perfect spot in our bed. We want the brain to know, oh, this is where you sleep. This isn't where I phone. This isn't where I watch TV. This isn't where I call my mom at night. This isn't where I do, Scrabble. This isn't where I eat. This is where I sleep.
That's fascinating. I'd never
Yeah.
heard that before.
No, me neither. So sleep, obviously one huge component of this. And the other one I keep hearing you repeat over and over, and I hear it out in the zeitgeist and I'm believing it, is
Uh-huh.
nutrition.
Oh, yes.
Right. But like, I think we grew up on such processed foods. I
We
think
did.
especially our generation, because it was all coming out, all that processed food was coming out. It was so easy. And what is actually good nutrition? Like, what does that actually mean? Because I might think I have a good nutrition, but maybe I'm way off the mark.
Women, perimenopause and older, really need to take a hard look at their protein intake. You can still be a vegan, a vegetarian, and get enough protein. We want to look at our lean muscle mass. I am a big believer that we should know our lean muscle mass. It is generally, I am no medical doctor, but if I weigh 100 pounds, and I don't weigh 100 pounds, if I weigh 100 pounds, I'm probably 75 to 80% of my body is lean muscle mass. So that's the number of protein grams I need to get per day to just keep my muscle. I have a formula. Any of your listeners who want to get on the Zoom with me, we can talk about a formula. I can give you the formula you can use. And what you do is you calculate how much lean muscle mass you have. And then that way you can calculate how much protein you need. Protein's for your brain, it's for your heart, it's for your muscles. So I start there. With any packaging, I look to see how much protein is there.
Hmm.
We need carbohydrates and we need fat. I think the word fat is a really bad word for that macronutrient, right? We call
Oh yeah, I
fat,
grew up with fat. You don't eat fat. Everything was fat
right? And
free.
you're going to be
Everything.
fat. And you're going to be
Yeah,
fat free. Snack
yeah,
wells, right? Did
yeah,
you have
yeah,
snack
yeah.
wells?
Oh,
Oh my gosh, I love
totally,
those
all the
things.
time.
I have like two
Delicious.
boxes of them,
Yeah,
right?
they're great.
So women, I think instead of focusing on these numbers that I've just called out, women just need to own it. Just have a really fueling relationship with food. If I can convince you to lift heavy, you're going to have to eat because
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to lift heavy.
But when you say lift heavy, you said 5 reps. Does that mean like not my 20 pounders until like I'm feeling like I can't lift them again?
Right. So
20
what we
reps
want to
later.
do
You're
is
saying like,
there's a terminology in the strength community and in kinesiology that's called progressive overload. So we need to increase volume. We need to tell your brain, I'm going to do this for a while. So if I'm going to work on my overpress, I'm going to be working on my overpress for several weeks before I amp up from 5 to 10 pounds or 5 to 7.5. But my goal is over the course of time. Are you ready? I'm giving this all away. We should be deadlifting our body weight in pounds.
what?
Once. So does that mean that you, Michele, let's say again, you weigh 100 pounds, that you're going to deadlift 100 pounds this year? Maybe. But if I get you to 75, which I would, how good does that feel? And have you increased your muscle mass if you're deadlifting regularly 75 pounds every once in a while? Yeah. You want to aim for body weight in pounds of a deadlift because a deadlift is a functional, everybody deadlifts because we all hinge at our hips and pick stuff up. We unload the dishwasher, we load the dishwasher, we pick things up. Okay. We should be squatting 65% of our body weight and we should be pressing overhead. We do not press overhead enough. That's why a big reason why I believe we have so many shoulder complications among women, which is directly related to estrogen decline. We should be pressing overhead 25% of our body weight over a year. I know everybody wants it right here. Every woman wants to lose weight in the next 10 weeks because she's got a big wedding. That's not the program that's going to behoove you anymore. You're looking for how am I going to feel better in a year? I ask women for 6 months and then they don't leave.
Adrien, you have something called the wellness wheel.
I do.
Is this the integrated approach of all of these concepts?
It is. It is. It's your sleep, your stress resilience, it's your nutrition. I call it fuel, and your movement, which is strength, and then calendar. Because if we don't put it on the calendar, it
Doesn't
does not
exist.
happen.
Mhm.
And then my wheel is wrapped by small habits because we tend to want to run a marathon. I say walk the block. We want to do meditation. I say take a deep breath. We want to start eating 5 to 6 fruits and vegetables a day. I say eat 1. So this is the neuroscience of habit and coming together with wellness. I'm not alone. There are many programs out there that do it that are very successful. We teach smaller the habit, the more likely you will have success. So if you want to go from the 5-pound dumbbell with your overhead press over the course of the next 3 months, you start 5 and then you incrementally go up to 7.5 over the next few weeks. You choose days of the week you do it, and then you do that for 3 to 4 weeks. And then you progressively add your load to 10 pounds. And then you do that over the course of time. You're not going to go from 5 to 20. Make sense?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. So
So what's something that somebody could do, like, I want to start today? What's the one thing that you would say they could do right now to get started on this journey?
What are they aiming to do?
If they want to improve their wellness in this phase of perimenopause and menopause life.
there's
One thing
Mm-hmm.
other than get in contact with me.
that's
That's
that's the
obviously the
thing.
first thing.
That's all the things right there, as they say, right?
Get your sleep.
Get your sleep.
Focus on your sleep. It's top. I would say focus on your nighttime routine. Make sure your nighttime routine is squeaky clean. What I mean by that is do the same thing every night. Start on Mondays. Get a nightly routine every Monday. It's like clockwork. At 9 o'clock, I do this. At 9:30, I do this. At 9:45, I do this. And at 10, I'm in bed. At 10 o'clock in bed, I grab my book. After that, I grab my lotions, potions. And at 10:30, I'm asleep. Do that every Monday night. And then after you're successful with that for 3 months, Monday is going to join Merry Wednesday. And so Wednesday is going to do the same thing over the course of time. Sleep.
That's amazing. Okay, so that's the one thing. Now
Yeah.
let's go to the, to all the things. Like if somebody was working with you, Adrien, like over the course of a year, right? If you're doing the wheel and you're in the menopause now, and I assume somewhere inside of menopause now, you're taking care of menopause MRT, you're calling it MR.
Yes, menopause hormone therapy. Used to be HRT, now it's MHT.
MHT. Okay, MHT. So at the end of a year, what have you seen somebody come to you looking like and feeling like, and then at the end of it, and especially feeling like at the end, what kind of shifts do you see over a year on every level? Not like feeling good. I'm going to go physical, sexual, mental. Like, what do you see in that time if you implement these systems?
Confidence. I'm feeling emotionally confident. I'm feeling more assured that I'm on a path, that this path is science-based, that many other women in our program have done it. And I feel really confident that I'm on the path to continue to feel better and better every year. I'm 59 years old. I feel better at 59 than I did at 58, than I did at 57. Every year I feel better. I think women need to understand you're going to feel better before you look better. It's going to be a feeling of, I've got this. So you're going to get better sleep. You're going to lift weights that are going to make you feel so much better. You're not going to be sick as often. You're not going to be as stressed out as often. If you lift the weights, you're going to sleep, by the way. That makes sense, right? And you're going to have this calendar that every Monday I walk with Susie. Wednesdays, I head to bed at 10. Fridays, I call my mom or I write a gratitude letter. And you have it calendarized. So you have a plan. Women love plans, right? We all love plans.
Well, you said it yourself. If it's not in my calendar, it's
Forget
not
it.
real. It doesn't exist, right? It's like, it's just it's in the ether.
Exactly.
It was a nice
has to be on the
idea.
calendar. Yeah.
But
So,
I mean,
Adrien, if a lot of our listeners aren't going to be in the DC area where you're located. So if somebody were to start working with you, what would that process look like working with you from a distance?
Oh, easy. So I have a 30-minute free consult. Everybody who I meet with, I want to meet with them first because I want to make sure not only do they believe they are a fit for me, I want to make sure they are a fit for my program because some women are not a fit. For a variety of reasons, let's just say that. So we meet, and the best case scenario is I have a small group of women who are ready to join together online. So we meet at the same time on the same day of the week, and we meet as a group. Half of the session is focused on this perimenopause, menopause. How am I going to figure out where I am in it? And then I'm going to go through the wheel. So I always start my sessions with wellness, a half hour of wellness, and then we transition to a half hour of strength training. So you get all of that in 1 hour session once a week. That's the ideal. We put together a group of women with you, which I am generally always having lists of women who are coming along and they want to work with other women. So I'm building lists of women. And that's what we do, because we do so much better in community with other women who are on the same path and share the same values and share the same passions. Some of the women in our group, they've become very, very good friends. And some of them have not. They see each other once a week. But the level of community that we have created in our program has really helped so many women feel supported, confident, happier.
In their own lives and in their relationships, right?
And in their relationships. Absolutely. I got an email from a husband the other day. I really want to buy, I can't say it out loud. Well, it's her birthday's going to happen next week. I want to buy Catherine some bells. That's all she wants for her home. She says she wanted to lift heavier. What should I get her? So he and his daughter went out to get her some kettlebells. And they got her everything I asked for. The family is involved in her life. The family understands how important this is to her. And they
And-
appreciate it and they support her.
And Adrien, if so you're obviously a resource, right? That for women that we can put out into the world, but is there anything that's been a resource to you that you feel like you would want to share? And it can be in any part of life, but are there any other resources that have been very meaningful to you along your journey that you think are worth sharing with our audience and listeners?
When it comes to the science, I would definitely go to the menopause.org. It's the National Association of Menopause Specialists. They do unbelievable work, and it's very, very medical, very much science-based. And so if you're interested in understanding the science behind what's going on with your body, go there first. There are a lot of influencers on Instagram.
Mhm.
I would just be cautious, because I would want to make sure I'm going with whoever is a medical doctor who is doing just this. In terms of resources, there are so many out there. I would recommend the book Breath by James Nestor. That's a fantastic book for a woman in menopause to read. We need to learn how to breathe, ladies.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath, because we're on a long, tumultuous ride.
Yeah.
I
We
think
really
that's
are.
it. And
That's
sleep. Look up Matthew Walker. Matthew Walker is the leading authority on sleep right now. Very smart from Australia. I study a lot of Matthew Walker.
and go ahead, please.
So just to sort of wrap up, because I think that we have packed in a tremendous amount of information in a very
Yes.
short period of time. So if you're a woman in your 40s, you need to find a menopause specialist. You need to transition from perhaps, OB-GYN focused to somebody that has menopause training if your OB-GYN does not.
Right.
You need to lift heavy.
You need to lift heavy.
So not a lot of reps, but you need to really challenge your brain and your body and lift heavy.
Mhm.
You need to focus on sleep, and at a minimum, pick a day and say, this day I am going to optimize my sleep. And then hopefully that day becomes 2 days and 3 days and eventually 7 days. You have to eat a boatload of protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And food.
Like, the amount of protein I need to eat is like mind-boggling.
Yeah, you do.
And you need to reach out to somebody like you, Adrien Cotton, who's a national expert and has these programs that can really connect women to other women going through the same thing and put them on a more, sort of focused path of managing this phase of their life, which they're going to be in for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Exactly.
I love that. So it's like you've considered evolution and you're like, you know what? Evolution hasn't considered this phase of our lives well enough. So I'm going to create a framework, an integrated framework of a wellness wheel and a menopause now system that is going to handle it, because I don't think it's being handled as it should be out there right now,
Not
right?
yet. Not yet.
And this will be a step in the right direction for a lot of women. And I think that's amazing. So one question I want to end this with, and that Liz and I like to, it's an oldie but a goodie. And I love to hear people's answers to it. But, what is one thing you would tell your younger self, knowing what you know now about
Yeah.
everything you know? What's one thing you would tell your younger self at whatever age you want to pick? You know, just to kind of give yourself some advice in the past.
I struggled so much through perimenopause. I wish I knew I was going to get through it better. I'm so much better. I'm stronger and better. I'm more confident than I was back then. Menopause and perimenopause has been the greatest gift of my life.
Mhm. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
I love that.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
Adrien, thank you so much.
You're
We
welcome.
so appreciate you talking to the Spark Me listener, and we are going to include all of your details in our show notes, the resources that you mentioned. But we just want to thank you for joining us today and kicking off this conversation.
It
Yeah.
is my pleasure to be with the two of you today. I'm
Yeah.
thrilled and honored, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all again.
Yeah. And Adrian, I just want to say, like, sometimes you say we changed one life, we've done what we set out to do, right? Um, you set off so many light bulbs for me today. Like the first
Sorry
thing I'm
about
going to
that.
do is go find a OB-GYN who specializes in menopause.
Yeah,
It's
yes,
just
you
so
are.
simple, but I hadn't even thought of it. And the fact that, it makes sense now because, they're really set up for another phase of life 9 times out of 10.
Yeah,
So thank you. And thank you for this conversation. And I hope we can have you back to discuss more in the future. And
I
as
love
we
that.
get more
Love that.
questions based on this, we'd love it.
Look forward to it.
Thank
Anytime.
you.